Here's how I created thousands of baby goldfish. The formula is simple. You get a little goldfish sperm, you get a little goldfish egg, you squeeze them out like tubes of toothpaste, you wait a little bit, then boom! You get thousands of baby goldfish. That's the short version. Now, let me go into a little more detailed version for those of you that actually want to do this. One morning, you might notice your female goldfish getting chased by your male goldfish. This is your opportunity to go and breed them. If they're not actively being chased and the female's not primed to lay the eggs, you can't just randomly squeeze them and expect eggs to come out. You're gonna kill them. So when this is happening, fill like a wide bucket with a large surface area with some water and collect up all your goldfish that you want to breed. Some females in that tank may have eggs and are primed to breed, others may not. You have to give them a light squeeze and see if anything comes out to make sure. However, the males, generally, about every male in that tank's gonna have sperm ready to go. And to those that already watch all my videos, I'm sorry if this sounds repetitive, but I want to make sure this is a nice, concise video for people trying to breed goldfish. So again, you want to pre-season the water with the sperm. You want to have some goldfish sperm available in the water before the eggs even hit. I find I get a higher fertilization rate when I have at least some sperm in there, because sometimes right when these eggs hit the water, like, you have a very short time period before they just kind of turn dead, unless there's some sperm there for them to mix with. When you're releasing the sperm, make sure to use very light pressure on the sides of the goldfish near the butt, and also maybe sometimes right near the back near the butt. This will push some of the sperm out, but be very gentle. And pretty similar thing for the eggs, which you want to do next. Push lightly on the back of the belly, both on the sides and then also right underneath the butt. This way you're gonna, push out most of those eggs, but just be gentle. If you're pushing semi-hard, nothing's coming out, don't push any harder. After all the eggs are out, I like to add just a little more sperm if there's any left in some of the goldfish, just to help increase the sperm concentration and increase that fertilization rate. Also, super important tip when releasing the eggs from the goldfish, kind of move the goldfish around to spread the eggs as far around as you can. You don't want big clumps of eggs. Generally, they all get fungus and die. You want the eggs spread out. About 15 minutes after fertilization, I like to dump out about all of the spermy, gross water and put in new, fresh, clean water. The thing that's going to keep your hatch rate, as high as possible is keeping that water clean. And that sperm water is like already making it dirty. As soon as the eggs are fertilized, you want to get it out there and get clean water in. After this, you want to add an air stone in the water. You want to keep the water highly oxygenated. You can have the air stone be turned all the way up until hatching time nears. Then you might want to turn it down a little bit so the little baby goldfish don't get thrown in like the rough bubbles of the air stone. You could also add methylene blue to the water. This is going to help prevent fungus from attacking the eggs. I usually do this, but this time I didn't, just because I wanted to test and see if I'd still got a good hatch rate without it. And this is what the eggs look like 5 hours after fertilization. You can already tell which ones are fertilized and still live, those clear ones, or which ones got fungus or never got fertilized, and those are those more cloudy ones. The time between fertilization and hatching will be around 2 days if you keep your water around 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which I recommend. During this time, you want to change the water out of this container literally like 4, maybe 5 times a day. Keep it as clean as possible. And remember, the eggs are stuck to the bottom, so you don't have to worry about accidentally dumping them out. And when you put the new water in, just be very gentle and have it not splash and wash away those stuck eggs. At around the 2-day mark, they're going to start hatching. You'll notice the baby goldfish are about to hatch when the eggs look like they're almost like little smiley faces with like 2 dots for the eye and the tail swirling around. And then they'll start kicking that tail and they'll start popping out of the egg. After they hatch, you're going to notice they have these big clear bulbs right in the top of their abdomen. This is their yolk sac, and this is what they're going to slowly be absorbing for the first 2 days. During the first 2 days, these guys will not eat. Do not put food in there. It's just going to rot and sour the water quality. This is what they'll look like the day after hatching. As you can see, they already look a little different. They look a little more slender and longer. That yolk sac has been slightly absorbed. They're still lying on the ground. They're going to lay on the ground here until that yolk sac is fully absorbed. Then they'll get up and swimming around, and this is when they're looking for food and when you should feed them. After they had hatched, I wanted to carefully transfer them to a tank with some sponge filters. This is one of the hardest parts for me to do carefully. So I got this bucket that could actually fit perfectly within the 75-gallon tank, and I just put it in there and I filled up the water to the point where it was like, able for the goldfish to swim out of it, and I just left it like that. I didn't try dumping them out. You don't want to be rough with these guys. They're very fragile, and over time they ended up swimming out of there by themselves. 2 days after hatching, your baby goldfish should look something like this. So they're going to look a lot more developed, and they're going to be up and swimming around. They're going to be looking for food. Now, During this time between them just laying on the ground absorbing their yolk sac and then them, becoming free swimming, you don't really need to change the water if you have, they're in a good enough amount of space and you have, cycled filters on there. Just let them be and let them absorb their yolk sac. And then once they're up and free swimming and you start feeding, that's when you're going to need to start doing a lot of water changes. Now, what should you be feeding these baby goldfish? Well, I like to feed freshly hatched baby brine shrimp. And what you see right here is a brine shrimp hatchery. And if you look real closely, you can see all those tiny little brine shrimp that are in here. Now, I have a separate video posted, like a short video posted, on how I set this brine shrimp hatchery up. And I'm going to be posting another short video on how I separate the brine shrimp out of here. I already have some where I show this. You can look it up online as well. Now, you can feed this. You can also feed this other stuff. It's a baby goldfish feed. It's not going to cause them to grow nearly as fast, but if you don't, have brine shrimp eggs on you, you don't have you don't have it available readily, you can use this stuff and they'll eat it and they will grow. Now, as for water changes on the baby tank, you literally want to do one at least every day, sometimes twice a day once they get a little bigger and you're feeding them more. I like to use this little low power pump in a mesh bag. If you put the low power pump straight in there, you're going to suck out the baby fish. You got to have the mesh bag. Now, I know you're thinking, a water change every single day, sometimes twice a day, and you're using this little low power pump that takes forever? This is a lot of work, Luke. It is a lot of work. So don't complain about them goldfish prices. I really got to buy longer tubing. This short little tube is the one that came with the pump, but if I got a longer tube, I could just have it go directly to the drain. And even with the mesh bag, every time I've bred the baby goldfish, some still find their way to get sucked against the filter face. And the weaker ones, this will just happen to them. They'll get sucked into the current, and there's honestly not much you can do about it. You're going to have a couple losses here and there from water changes, and it just happens. It happens to me every single time. I try to avoid it. I try to push them off, but sometimes they still get stuck on there and they die. I like the water changes to be pretty large volume. And of course, with any water change, I use aged water and it's the same exact temperature as the water in the tank. I only fill the tank a maximum of 12 inches. And honestly, this is probably a little bit high for when they're this little. I probably should have not filled it up so high. And this just helps them develop their swimming correctly. You don't want to have it be a super high depth water. It's not going to be good for them. Other important things to note. So your filters, they should be sponge filters. These are really going to be the only option that's not going to suck up the babies. They can swim on it, they can lay on it and eat right off it, and they're not going to get sucked up. And also, in terms of tank temperature, I like to keep the tank temperature between 78 Fahrenheit to 82 Fahrenheit. Somewhere in that range. I find when the waters are warmer like that, they grow a little faster, their metabolism's faster, and, just overall better, faster development of the fry. These first 2 weeks are when most people fail when they're trying to breed and raise baby fry. They're very fragile. It's very easy just to suck them all out in the water change. It's very easy to spoil the water quality, very heavily. Do your water changes every single day. Always have food available in the tank. Like, feed them like 6, 7, 8 times a day. Feed them a ton. And they should grow up nice and fast and healthy. And you should get a pretty good sized goldfish army. Now, one thing to note. Unless you have a bunch of tanks ready to raise up all these fish, don't breed goldfish. Don't breed goldfish unless you're actually ready to raise up a lot of fish. Or you're going to be very strict with your culling, and you're going to cull off 99.5% of all the babies and only keep the top 5, top 0.05% of your favorites. Also, one last thing, if you don't pre-order a Tubby Toby plushie, all of your baby goldfish die. It is just a known law of the universe. You have to do it or else they're gone. But anyway, yeah, I think that covers about all the important topics of breeding goldfish for the first week or so. Obviously, there's more information for once to get a little bigger in terms of culling and varying up the diet and stuff like that. But this first hard part of fertilization and raising these little tiny babies, this about covers it all.